Hi, this is Angie Chappell, and I'm going to interview Nick Nicholson. He is a Houston and Texas film critic and actor. We're going to get started. All right, so what made you want to become a film critic?
I'm not sure I set out to be a film critic in the first place. I, like a lot of other people, have opinions about movies and what makes them good and what doesn't. And when I was in college, a number of the classes that I took had to do with film and the fine arts and being able to identify things and break them down and understand really what makes the process work, the film process work, the telling of stories work. Everything from writing an article to creating something visual, even if it's a report. I kind of have a knack for knowing how that works and what works and doesn't work in that process. And when I was graduating, it was about 2 months prior to graduation, I remember going to see a movie. I don't remember the name of the film, but it was a Touchstone film, and I remember being completely unimpressed with what I saw. So I wrote a letter to Michael Eisner, who was chairman of the Disney Foundation, the Disney Corporation at that time, and explained that this is what was wrong with the movie, A, B, C, D, and so on. But had you done this, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., it would have made it much better. About 2.5 weeks later, I got a letter. This is before cell phones were really prevalent, but I got a letter, a certified letter. I had to sign for it, and it was from Disney, from Michael Eisner. And what wound up happening is I signed for the letter, it was very nice, very, very professional, and the next day I got a phone call, and I was offered a job.
That's amazing.
And that's how it happened.
That's awesome. So, I mean, that kind of answered the second question, which was how did you get to where you are currently? I mean, you kind of started there, but then obviously you progressed.
Well, what I didn't take the job.
Oh, wow.
I didn't take the job because I felt, okay, I'm wanting my professional career to encompass these things. And I felt that if I went to work for a specific studio, that would slant my perspective, or could, at least the perception would be there, that my ability to remain neutral would be in question.
Okay.
Film critics go through, everybody's a film critic. Everybody thinks they're film critics. Everybody that has a blog that their grandmother and 3 other people read paint themselves as being a film critic, and that's not the case. There are sanctioned film critics, and these are the people that are selected by and voted upon by the studios to represent the views of the American people as far as film is concerned. And there's not that many. And if they're not members of or officers of national organizations or involved in film criticism outside of their village that they live in, or city, whatever the case might be, then they're not real film critics.
Okay.
And there's a big difference. There's a really big difference. So you're saying, how did I get to where I am currently? A lot of it is hard work. A lot of it is fighting for what I believe in. People that are involved in the media tend to make enemies more than they make friends. And the jealousy that exists is just, it's exorbitant.
Oh, yeah.
The amount of jealousy that exists in this particular industry in particular, because it's not like we are grading a math paper. 2 + 2 is 4. You can't argue against it.
Yeah.
When you say that this movie is good or this movie is bad, we're talking about the difference between subjective evaluation and objective evaluation. And that tends to, for lack of a better term, piss people off.
Yeah. I mean, just being an amateur actress, still learning the ropes of the business, that it's so much different in film, because I grew up in a performing arts environment. I went to a performing arts school in San Diego, and some of the people I went to school with are famous today, but I never pursued it. And so now at my age, I'm pursuing it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, film is so much different than theater, and I have a lot to learn.
I would merely say that I am where I am now because of perseverance and hard work. It's just tenacity, that's all it is.
Yeah. And you just have to learn to not take things so personal. That was really hard in the beginning when I...
It's still hard now. it's still hard now. I mean, it is actually difficult to believe, but I've actually had death threats because I didn't like this movie or I liked that movie.
That's just silly.
And you never know. It takes all kinds.
So, in all of this, while building your career, obviously you started somewhere, entry-level positions per se.
Yeah, what I wound up doing is when I received the offer from Eisner and Disney, of course I turned that down, but I decided, I think this could be something really interesting.
Yeah.
So I wrote a few reviews, and then the first newspaper I took them into, oh yeah, we'll buy these every week.
Oh, sweet.
And then it turned into another, and it turned into another, and at this particular point, I think my column is syndicated in 38, 39 newspapers now, and 5 magazines, and it's out there enough.
Awesome. So, I mean, we kind of covered everything, and I think you've even answered the skills that are required to be a film critic or a reporter. Film reporter, I guess, is another term for what you do.
You can be a journalist, and this is where some people tend to really disagree with me. You can be a journalist and a reporter all you want to. You can be assigned to cover film. That doesn't mean you know what you're doing.
True.
And I'm sorry, but if you were to take the traffic reporter from, say,
Jennifer Reyna,
whoever, okay, so you take the traffic reporter and throw her in a movie theater, she's going to talk about what she liked and what she didn't like. That works for some people, but why would you go to a dentist? Why would you go to see somebody about a toothache because you perceive them to be a dentist because they have white, straight teeth?
Okay.
You wouldn't do that.
No.
Why would you take your mom or dad to have aortic valve replacement surgery? Why would you take them to somebody who has read an awful lot about cardiac surgery but isn't a doctor? Why would you do that? You wouldn't.
No.
So you wouldn't do that. So why would you put somebody in a position of acting as a film critic that doesn't have the training to do it?
True.
One's life, one's death, and for some people, movies are life and death. So whether right or wrong, that's the perception and the reality that exists.
Okay. These questions, some of them are kind of repetitive, just asked in different ways. This next one, it says, what is it that you have had to work on, develop over the years to be successful at what you are currently doing? So, I mean, was there something in particular that you needed to work on yourself?
Yeah. The thing that I found that I've had to work on the most, and I still have to work on it now, it goes back to what my grandfather always used to say: you can't teach brains. And
I like that.
what I mean by that, and what he meant by that, is that it, like I said, it takes all kinds. There are people that are very intuitive. There are people that are very intelligent. There are people that are just stupid. And some movies are made for those folks, and others aren't. Somebody that goes to see one of the Fast and the Furious films is going to sit there like a walrus doing the beach ball thing, like, this is great, this is fantastic. And then you put them in a theater with Inception running, and they're going to say, I don't get it. They're not going to get it. Well,
No.
film does not exist to entertain you. There has to be a purpose to the story. There has to be a point.
They're telling a story.
And the story itself has to be greater than the sum of the boobs, the sex, the explosions, and the fast stunt driving that exists in order for it to be a genuine film that's worthy of talking about.
I think that whole series, I mean, it's just more about the, I guess, the special effects. But not even that so much. It's just the fast cars for people who are into that.
It's a popcorn flick.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It exists for one reason, and that's to entertain those that have ADOS.
What is that?
Well, you've heard of attention deficit disorder.
Yes.
You know, ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder. I call probably 35 to 40% of the American theater population. I say that they have ADOS, which is attention deficit. Ooh, shiny. See, and if you don't have something exploding or something
awesome.
that's gratuitous, that's right in front of their face every so often,
I love
then
it.
you've got an issue. Now, one of the things that I do, which is really interesting, is that I am a script consultant for the larger studios from time to time. Hey, can you do this? So what I do is I read through the script, I make notes on what I like and don't like, and I send it back, and they either follow it or they don't. There's a formula that the filmmakers follow where they know, okay, we've got to have a sex scene or something in the 18th minute, otherwise we're going to lose the audience. We have to have something exploding 10 minutes later or we're going to lose the audience. They're not following the story for the story's sake. They're interjecting things that will continue to keep the audience's attention for the purpose of keeping their attention, not telling a story.
Wow. So you kind of fell into it. The next question is, you know, what are the current education requirements for that job? So if I decided today to quit my job, what kind of requirements would I need to pursue something like what you do today?
A padded cell. I think I wouldn't quit your job to do it because it's virtually impossible to make ends meet if you are a film critic and that's all you're going to do. Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen. So you better be able to write, you better be able to tell stories, and you better be able to write well. You need to have a thick skin. I think the thick skin is more important than anything else. You can get by with, I'm an okay writer. Well, but if your common sensibilities are questionable, I'm not sure that this would be the industry for you, because more people will dislike you than like you, and for some, that's a challenge.
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of competition out there.
Well, it's not so much that there's a lot of competition. Number one, newspapers and newscasts, etc., if it leads, it bleeds.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, if it bleeds, it leads. I just had a dyslexic moment there. But if it bleeds, it leads. The news, even radio to this point, there are a lot of people that don't think there's any interest whatsoever in hearing or having entertainment reports. And I think that's ridiculous, because people are always wanting to know, well, what movies are out? What's this about? Who's in it? I want to know, am I going to go see this or am I going to go see that? Are we going to go see that damn Lego movie? What are we going to go see? That's why it's important. But others, and many people that are in positions that are able to make those decisions, don't necessarily value or believe that there's value having those reports.
I think it's valuable. I mean, Dallas Buyers Club, I didn't have any interest in seeing it until I started hearing more about it. And then I saw the transformation, and I read an interview about what Matthew McConaughey went through to get to that point. I mean, he looked emaciated. I mean, it almost made me cry, and it was on film, and I know that it was just for the film, but that just, that's what made me want to go see
But
it.
the film
Oh, the film
told
was,
a story.
It did. It was incredible.
It told a story, and it kept you hooked because of the story, not in spite of.